All right. Well, we have all of the background elements ready on Sir Keir Starmer and his links to the MI6. But just for everyone who's watching, just first bring us up to date on what exactly happened in the UK.
Yeah, sure. So effectively, like we've just had a total wipeout of the ruling Conservatives who've been in office since 2010. It's usually a cause for joy, but I can find no solace in this whatsoever. They have been replaced by a government that's like potentially even worse. This is, like the Keir Starmer, as you say, is heavily embedded with the Trilateral Commission, with the security and intelligence services. He's been involved in a number of elite level cover-ups of serious crimes. And yeah, he's now the prime minister with an absolutely astonishing majority in parliament, able to do whatever he wants. He is someone who has stated repeatedly that he supports Zionism without qualification. Banning of Palestine solidarity events moving forward, I think so.
Yeah. And so this was sort of an underwhelming landslide, or like a landslide in which the British electorate, and especially Labour voters, demonstrated very little enthusiasm for the ticket they were stuck with.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's quite interesting is that like the mainstream media, which has like groomed Starmer to an insane degree over the past few years, he's been subject of multiple fawning profiles in the mainstream media. They declare axiomatically that he is ready to govern for no other reason than they have decided that he is. They have acknowledged that he got less votes and a smaller vote share than Corbyn did in 2019 and 2017. And of course, Corbyn's defeat in 2019 was talked up as the most embarrassing thing in British politics in modern history. He was widely pilloried and condemned for this. And they are admitting that Starmer has got this stomping majority in Parliament with less public enthusiasm. They're not even bothering trying to hide it because it can't be spun or burnished in any other way than, well, the reason that he won was because the Tory vote collapsed. That's the only reason. There's no public enthusiasm for him. There was a stunning YouGov poll on why people were voting Labour this time that was released. I think it was on the day of the election, or it might have been the day before, where it was like 48% of people polled stated they were backing Starmer because they wanted to get rid of the Conservatives. And then it was like on every other issue, whether it was, well, Labour supports the working class, or Labour has good policies, etc. It was like single-digit figures. The only reason that people have voted for him is to get rid of the scourge of the Conservatives, and I think that this is a very interesting and indeed exceptional period in British electoral history, because there's going to be no honeymoon. Like, he's coming into office with people under no illusions about who he is, what kind of government he's going to run, there is zero public support for what he's about to do, which, as I say, could be quite savage.
I mean, Rishi Sunak was an absolute joke. He was basically an unelected prime minister, sort of like an interim Juan Guaido kind of figure. He was terrible as a retail politician. He was terrible on policy. It almost felt like this moment was just being set up for Keir Starmer. And then before that, you had the whole political assassination of Jeremy Corbyn. Yet under Corbyn's stewardship, Labour won more votes in 2017 than they did this. In 2017 than they did this time.
Yeah, and 2019 as well, and it's like, yeah, I mean, as I say, I think it's really worthwhile reviewing what establishment crony journalists said about Labour's defeat in 2019. This was hyped up as an utter indictment of Corbyn as a person and as a politician and his entire policy platform. And then Keir Starmer, who has had unrelenting positive media coverage. He has been supported by the same elements who tried to undermine Corbyn. That is the Zionist lobby, that is the intelligence services, that is the military. There is no public enthusiasm for this whatsoever. It's a very interesting example of how like the media hype machine like no longer works. The only people they're convincing are themselves.
Just to cut in, sorry, but Starmer nurtured this relationship with Murdoch Media and the Fleet Street tabloids, and they hyped him up, and it's done nothing. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's fascinating because he has had the easiest ride of any politician that I can think of British politician that I can think of in my lifetime. The stock line is, well, the adults are back in charge of the Labour Party. When he won his leadership election in 2020, there were all of these establishment figures lining up to cheer him and praise him, and he gave this very wooden speech, which was completely uninspiring and unengaging. And this was talked up as a masterclass in political theory. He consistently refused to challenge the government in any serious way throughout the COVID madness. He was heralded as like being this master tactician in politics. That the phrase forensic cropped up a lot when he appeared at Prime Minister's questions. But people aren't buying it at all. There was this insane poll recently which stated that 12% of the British public felt that mainstream British political parties represented like public interests and public wishes and public views. Despite the fact that he has this kind of historic majority in the House of Commons, I think that it's going to be he's going to have a very, very difficult time of it. And while he might last a bit longer than Liz Truss, who failed to outlast the letters rather infamously, I do think that his days are numbered, because I mean, what mandate has he been elected on? Zero, apart from they're not the government. Like that's it, and that's not a particularly compelling sales pitch when your entire policy platform is we are the government in every conceivable way, apart from the color of the rosettes we wear.
Right. And Starmer lost. He received 17,000 fewer votes for his own parliamentary seat than back in 2019 when he won that seat. This was due to the protest candidacy of Andrew Feinstein, who was basically running as a rejection of the official Labour Party and Keir Starmer's support for the Gaza genocide and the Ukraine proxy war. It's sort of another, it adds insult to the injury of this sort of what you're describing as like a Pyrrhic victory.
I
mean, where is the Labour base, or what used to exist of the Labour base that actually opposed things like the slaughter of 36,000 or more people in Gaza in 8 months, that actually had suspicions about the security services and the role they play in British society? Have they just completely abandoned Labour?
Yeah, and like absolutely. And there was I mean, based on data on their voters, young people have completely abandoned Labour. It was like 40% of 18 to 24-year-olds, which is usually Labour's core constituency, voted for them this time. British Muslims deserted the Labour Party in droves. This is another core constituency for the Labour Party, and it's quite remarkable the level of rejection of Starmer and his platform. What's not being talked about is that there are 5 independent MPs, sadly George Galloway is not among them, who have managed to get into Parliament on explicit Palestine solidarity tickets. The British voting system is first past the post. It is very difficult for any independent to break through. This is unprecedented. It is also a shame that more independents who were vying, such as Craig Murray, who was running for Blackburn, didn't make it through. But this is a base through which anti-establishment, dissident, independent candidates can potentially next time make a breakthrough. Where Streeting, who is the Labour now the Labour Health Minister, who has taken money from private healthcare firms in the UK, he almost lost his seat, and his partner, who was parachuted into a very safe constituency, lost the election. So I think that in terms of laying a foundation for the next go around, which could be sooner than we think. It might not be 2029 as the law mandates. It could be a lot sooner than that. Labour could lose very, very, very badly. It's an interesting point in history.
Yeah, I mean, there's this centrist wank fest going on in Washington. Biden's people are saying, this is the way you do it. This is what we need to do. What Keir Starmer did. Basically, he kneecapped the left in Labour, and he gave up on all of basically anything that defined Labour as separate and distinct from the Tories, and he won. So it's the same thing we heard in the 1990s. It's all echoes of the Blairite era. We also have, you mentioned George Galloway. For those who don't know, the Workers' Party, though I guess Jody McIntyre came close, it lost all of its seats. So this was hailed by the Telegraph and their Zionist columnist Jake Wallace Simons as a triumph for Israel. The British people lose. They're not even hiding it anymore. So what happened here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do think there was probably shenanigans involved, because the candidate that Labour parachuted into Rochdale, which is George Galloway's constituency, was a veteran British journalist with zero connection to Rochdale whatsoever, who's written for the Evening Standard, The Independent, and other kind of London-based newspapers. That's quite strange. Corbyn's victory in Islington North is hugely significant. The entirety of British punditry, in keeping with their past form, was completely wrong on this, and they claimed that Corbyn had no chance and he wouldn't be able to do it or drum up enough support. No, he won as an independent because the people of Islington North absolutely love him. You could see that Labour figures were visibly angry that this happened. And now the spin is, oh, well, it's one seat and it doesn't really matter because we've got this stonking majority. The level of control that Starmer has sought to exert over the Labour Party has come undone to a staggering degree. As I say, I think that the next time round, whenever that is, we could see a lot of independent MPs breaking into Parliament. What kind of spikes my suspicion or gets my antenna tingling about George Galloway was when he won Rochdale, which was 55 days ago or 56 days ago, it was about 2 months, he gave this maiden speech to the media talking about the diminutive and much diminished Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. This sent shockwaves through the British political establishment. Sunak then gave a speech talking about what a danger George Galloway was, and how awful it was that he'd been elected. When the official transcript of these comments was released, all of the comments related to Galloway were redacted, which is, I don't think that's ever happened before. So the British establishment is in disarray. They are trying to work out how to justify themselves and how to win next time. That may not happen. Like Matt Kennard, a fantastic independent journalist, has written extensively about how the Gaza genocide is a major global sea change event, because people can see that they can't vote their way out of being complicit in a genocide. I think that's why Rishi Sunak went for an early election, was because he wanted to reduce the amount of time independent candidates had to organize themselves, to prepare, to campaign. You could argue that he was successful in this time round. Next time, maybe not so much.